Today I'm going to try and teach you the basics of creating meshes with Meshmatron. When you start, you'll be looking at this view with UI panels on your left and right. These UI panels can be moved by dragging with any pointer using the trigger. They will move so as to always point towards you. This is the network view. Here you connect together the nodes which will be used to create your mesh. To start with, I'll load up an example project. If you move one of your pointers over this icon and press the trigger, you will see that the menu. This option lets you load a project. Here's a list of example projects. I'll select the triplane one. Select tick to accept. Now here we are looking at some nodes. It probably looks quite complicated, but don't worry about all the details for the moment. The way it works is you create basic meshes for all the parts of your object, then modify them using functions. These functions are represented by nodes. Examples of functions you might use are mirror, to reflect in an axis, array, to repeat a mesh, and smooth, to round off a mesh's edges. When you combine these meshes using a combine node, you get your final mesh here. If you wish to change the program settings, go back to the menu and select Settings. These allow you to change various viewing options. There's also an option here that lets you flip the controllers between left and right. If you are left-handed, you will probably prefer to select left here. If you select right, then the right hand will be used mainly for editing things, and your left for navigating the view, pan and zoom. Later on in this tutorial, I'll refer to the editing pointer as the primary, and the navigation one as the secondary. For right-hander, primary will be right and secondary left. For a left-hander, left is primary and right secondary. Returning to the network view, you can navigate using your secondary laser. Press the trigger and drag to pan. To zoom, push the secondary trigger forward and back. To move a node, drag it with the primary laser using the trigger, like this. At the top of each node is a row of buttons. You activate them by putting your primary at one and pressing the trigger. To look at a node's contents, use this magnifying glass here. We are now looking at a normal 2D view of the mesh. To change the way the mesh is drawn, select one of these options here. The first one is wireframe, the second flat shaded, and the last one shows the actual material applied. I'll choose flat shaded for now. If you want to see it in VR, click here. This toggles the VR view on and off. As in the network view, the secondary laser is used for navigation. If you drag with the trigger, the view will pan like this. If you drag with the grip, it will rotate. To zoom, push the thumbstick forward or back. There are also 3 preset views you can select here. These allow you to see the side, front, and top views. Moving to the VR view, it works in a similar way, except that to pan or rotate, you have to have your pointer on the mesh. A green cursor will appear showing you when this occurs. You can then pan as before by holding the trigger and rotate by holding the grip. The zoom works slightly differently in the VR view. First of all, you must be rotating or panning for it to be active. Secondly, while panning, zoom will pull the mesh towards you or push it away. If you're rotating, the zoom will scale the mesh about the green cursor. Now I'll show you how to use one of the really fundamental nodes, the Mesh Edit node. To start with, I'll create a new project. Go to the File menu and select New Project. Now we are looking at a blank network view. To add a node, point in the primary where you want to place the node and press the thumbstick. A UI panel appears. On it are listed all available nodes. Select this one, the Mesh Edit node. Now choose the tick to accept it. The cross here would have cancelled the action. Now here we are looking at the new node. I'll edit it with the magnifying glass. Now we are able to edit the mesh. I'll start by explaining about the various components of this UI panel over here. The first column allows you to select what component of the mesh you want to edit. You can choose either vertices, edges, faces, or the transform. The current component is highlighted with a yellow outline. To start with, I'll edit vertices by clicking here. Now, if you look in the next column, these are the tools you can use on the vertices. These are Move, Rotate, Scale, Align, and Slide. The current one is highlighted as before. To start with, I'll choose the Move one. Now, move your primary over a vertex. Then drag with the trigger. The point will move. Next, say you want to move a group of vertices together. To do this, you must first of all select the vertices. This is done using the primary grip. First of all, you must choose the selection type. Select one of the tools here. For the moment, we will just use the simplest selection mode, Path Select. Using this. Now, just drag the cursor over the vertices you want to select. Releasing the grip leaves you with all the vertices selected. Now, to move the group of vertices, drag with the primary trigger on any of the selection. All the vertices will move as a group. If you try dragging an unselected vertex, it will move by itself. One more thing about selections. If you look up here, this button will invert your selection. Also, this one will select everything, while this one will select nothing. Looking at the column beside the tools, you will see this. This allows you to change the method of movement. Choosing this allows you to move the vertex using a gizmo. To move them, you just drag on any of the gizmo axes. Moving down the tools, the next one is Rotate. This causes a gizmo to appear showing you the axes of rotation. Dragging on any of these axes will rotate the verts about that axis. The Faces component also has a Rotate and a Move tool, just like the vertices, and they are used in a similar manner. Just drag on the Faces point, the dot in the middle, and drag. The Edges component also works in a similar manner. The Transform component has a Rotate and Move tool as well, though they can only be changed with a gizmo. Now I'll go back to the network view. To do this, I tap on the Exit Cross button. Now the next thing we might want to do is save our creation. Saving meshes in Meshmatron works in a slightly different way to other programs. To save, you must first of all create a mesh save node. A save node can be created as before. Click primary thumbstick and then select Save Mesh from the list. Now we need to connect the output of the Mesh node to the input of the Save node. Move your primary here and then drag using the trigger until you are over here. Now release. The nodes should be connected. Finally, we need to tell the Save node where it should save the file. Click on here. This will bring up the Properties panel for the node. All nodes have a Property panel. They allow you to give the node a name and change various properties. This entry is for the file name. Click here and a file requester pops up. Navigate your file system to find where you want to save it. Now give it a name and click the tick. Now you've specified where to save the file, but it isn't actually saved. This is done by going to the menu and selecting Export. A pop-up will appear notifying you of the success or failure of your export. Finally, you want to save your project. Go back to the menu and select Save Project. Then select the file as before, then the tick.